Hello, everyone. Welcome to Executive Encore. I am Patricia Muir, and I'm your host. This podcast is enjoyed by women, senior executives, women business owners, and professionals, those who are remastering their life and work at 40, 50, 60, and beyond. Today's episode is about rewriting the narrative when faced with life's most unexpected challenges, many of which can derail us at any age. Our topic: how to lead, thrive, and even find joy during cancer treatment. Sounds impossible, right? I promise you, it's not. And my guest today is living proof. My guest is Joelle Kaufman, author of Crushing the Cancer Curveball. Joelle is not just a successful executive and tech innovator. She's also a woman who has turned her breast cancer experience into one of the happiest years of her life. Her story is nothing short of extraordinary. Just to tease you, the key takeaway today will be by the end of this episode, you will learn how to tackle life's curveballs with resilience and create joy even during tough times and transform both as a leader and as a person. So let's get started. Meet Joelle Kaufman, who believes cancer and business challenges aren't battles to fight, but curveballs to crush with strategic leadership. Joelle is a best-selling author, an executive coach, and a former tech startup leader with over 25 years experience. Joelle also brings her writing experience. She is a bestseller, and she has over 25 years experience. After her life-changing cancer diagnosis, she turned her journey into the bestseller. First, number one bestseller, Crushing the Cancer Curveball. Drawing from her experience as a business leader and a baseball mom, she created the Curveball Method, which is in the ticker at the bottom if you want to access her website and learn more about that. It's a system that helps executives shift from solving problems tactically to leading strategically. As the founder of GTM Flow, Joelle coaches technology and healthcare leaders to thrive under pressure, adapt to challenges, and build a resilient, high-performing team. Her approach blends mindset training with actionable strategies, empowering leaders to achieve lasting success both professionally and personally. Hello, Joelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, Joelle, in your book, you talk about one of your talking points is about curveballs that are unexpected. Can you tell us a little more about what you mean by curveballs and how it teaches us something unique?
Sure. So, a curveball in baseball is a ball that's thrown in such a way that it moves, right? And the more it moves, the dirtier the curveball is, right?
Yes.
And the challenge is, even a curveball, which is moving slower than it appears, it'll look like a fastball. Instead of moving at 90 miles an hour or 95 miles an hour, it's moving at 65, 70 miles an hour. It's still fast.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And, in baseball, you still, you don't necessarily want a curveball. It's more fun to hit a fastball. But if you're a good hitter, you see a lot of them. And it's the same in leadership.
Mhm.
As you rise up to more senior levels of leadership, you don't get to solve the easy problems. You get the gnarly ones, the ones that look kind of messy. And I've been calling them curveballs for years. And when I faced cancer, obviously I wasn't the first in my family, as you know, Patricia. I think I was the 12th diagnosis of my
Mhm.
family. So we've seen the curveball before, but it does knock you off balance. It doesn't look like everything else. And you have to focus on it, right? Or it can hit you. So I found the metaphor the same, right? The ramifications of not hitting it are obviously very different. In a business, yes, you can lose the business in the worst case scenario, and that can derail people's lives financially for sure, but it actually takes a lot to kill a business.
Mhm.
And most curveballs are unpleasant initially, and they can be loss of a major customer. They can be a product that doesn't perform the way you expected or is late. They can be an investor pulling out, or you tripping covenants in your investors. And I mean, these are all unpleasant, but they're
Mhm.
not going to kill you. When you face the cancer curveball, you have to face that if I don't deal with this one, it can kill me, actually kill me. So you get real focused real fast. But
Mhm.
that's where the metaphor comes from. And what I find is you don't even need to understand baseball. My friends in Europe who aren't baseball fans get the concept of something's coming at me that I didn't want, that doesn't look like what I expected, and I have to deal with it.
Mhm.
For simplicity, we call it a curveball.
Yeah, what you mentioned about the how quickly it comes and how it curves and how it can knock us off balance, right? I look at that as that's how it derails us because I went through that experience myself. So that's such a profound lesson, Joelle. It's not just about reacting, it's about choosing how to react,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I'd ask our listeners the next time life throws you a curveball, pause and look at the big picture. Ask yourself, where can I create space for growth? And that shift in mindset is a real game changer. Correct, Joelle?
Yes, it is. When I coach people through the curveball method, the first thing we start with is a pause,
Mm-hmm.
as you said. Um, what I did with the cancer is the same, where we have to pause and we have to start with curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What am I looking at? This biz goes for business as well. As I look at it and I explore, what are the strengths I have to rely on? That can be my team, that can be prior knowledge. There's lots of different strengths. But the mindset, and you called it, space for growth. I will say with cancer, that may not be the first thing you think of, and that's okay, right? But you do need a mindset shift when you face a curveball because you don't ever choose the pitch, you just choose the swing. So, my suggestion, as we're being curious, is to shift to a mindset of, okay, I'm going to figure out how to hit or crush this. It's a puzzle to be solved. If you can create space and look at the big picture, fantastic. You may need to communicate or take some action before, but if you do, then pause and try to see the big picture because what I see is we get caught up in the tactical heroism. I can solve this problem and this problem and this problem and that problem. And we don't do that. Pause. What are we actually trying to accomplish here? Right? And you can say, oh, with cancer, that's easy. Destroy the cancer. Okay. Yes, Captain Obvious, that is the ultimate goal. But the how I want to do that is actually a pretty varied set of options. And yes, you should have a fabulous team of healthcare experts, and they will explain the options, but it is highly likely you are going to have choices. I'll give you a simple one.
Mm-hmm.
My type of cancer, triple negative breast cancer, responds can respond very well to chemo, but the chemo can get pretty toxic. But they're going to do chemo. In my case, they did it before surgery. Okay, I'm going to have chemotherapy. What are the choices? Simple. Do I want them to prick my arm and do it through my veins? Or do I want to advocate for a port, which is a subcutaneous device, which never pricks my arms? For me, a no brainer, but it is a choice. You can choose the other way. And some people do. So you have choices all along the way. Now, to a happiness tripwire, not only did I choose the port, but I put out to some of my friends, I wanted to name the port. I wanted to have affection for the port. Why not? It's ridiculous, right? But one of my friends came up with the best name. She said, "Oh, I know. Let's call it Voldeport." And
Oh,
so Voldeport, like Voldemort, except Voldeport, who was carried around with me, and in my case, actually served me very well. But it's a little choice, but there is power in recognizing the little choices you can make and putting a sense of happiness or whimsy. I didn't have to name the port. Who names their port? I told everyone the name of my port, every nurse, every medical assistant, my doctors, and you know what? They laughed.
mhm,
I laughed with them. And we all had a release of oxytocin and serotonin and all the good stuff coursing through my body to help my body recover from the poison of chemotherapy.
mhm. Yeah, going back to those choices, to be curious about those choices, because you also need to be very aware of there's a lot of decisions to make that can, like we say, could be fatigue in making those decisions, right?
Mhm.
So being curious, I think, is a little similar to how you named your port, is a little kinder on ourselves. It's self-compassion. Let's be curious about this, about what's the best way. And you have made this point throughout what you've talked about. It's different for everybody.
Mhm.
So it was different for you. It was different for me. How the choices we had to make, but also the choices around how we continue in our business or our work, how that would change, right?
That's right.
What we needed to do. So yes, being curious about that rather than following some prescribed route that has been, well, you read a lot of articles because you are curious. And this person did it this way, and this person did it another way. You still have to form your own way of doing things, right?
And I think there's power in that. And
Hmm.
there are 120 different varieties of breast cancer alone. And that doesn't even include growth rate, comorbidities, or other things. But I don't know that I want to broaden this beyond, because this isn't really about cancer. This is about how you face problems. And
Hmm.
when you are leading, you can get decision fatigue in your organization as well. You can also have a sense of time compression and panic.
Hmm.
And both of those are moments to catch your breath. Everybody has 5 minutes, right? So the act of doing some box breathing, which is 4 beats in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. Fighter pilots do it. So I'm pretty sure you have the time to. And the benefit of doing that is it calms your parasympathetic nervous system. And we need to do that when we're leading and we start getting amped up and reactive and angry or anxious or what have you. We're actually harnessing parts of our brain that come from when we were trying to escape saber-toothed tigers and like bears.
Hmm.
It's not a tiger or a bear. It's not moving that fast. Your life isn't that at risk in the next 2 minutes. Take a breath because you need clarity.
Hmm.
And when you have clarity, there may be a long list of decisions, but they start to be orderly. I didn't have to make decisions about my surgery when I started my chemotherapy because that was going to be 3 to 4 months away, right? In business, when you can calm yourself, look at the big picture, and then say, I'm curious. What do I need to learn? And what do I need to do first to inform the next step,
Hmm.
right? It's not the enormity of the thing.
I also love that you say you refuse to see cancer as a battle. And that can be the same with any challenge that we have in life, rather than looking at it as a battle, because
Mhm.
as you say, battles are exhausting, right? You
Mhm.
want to say a little more about that?
Sure. Look, they're exhausting and they're exhilarating. They're just going to tire everybody out. But if we see it, I mean, process is such a slow word, but if we see it as a opportunity, not one we wanted, but good news or bad news, you don't get to choose all of them,
That's right.
right? So what was it an opportunity for? For me, it was an opportunity to connect with more people. Well, when a company I was leading marketing for thought that something had happened and our entire technology stopped working overnight, it didn't. But our data showed it looked like it had. And we said, oh my God, we're going to lose the business. We're going to lose all of our customers. But by slowing down, being curious, and saying, well, the first thing we need to do is see if our customers are seeing something similar. Well, it turned out our customers each thought they had done something because all of their analytics, not just about us, everything was showing dramatic drops in traffic. And they were petrified, but they were in a silo. So the first opportunity is one of building community, because you learn more when you're sharing experiences. Part of why I wrote my book was so that people who don't know me, have no connection to me, can share an experience, one that is about love and hope and power, right? So when we were at the company and we reached out to our customers, and we were then able to tell them, wait, it's not just you. We're seeing this ourselves. And then we talked to more customers and everyone's seeing it. We said, okay, it's not an us problem. It's a bigger problem, but we're all in it together.
Right.
Well,
Right.
any rock, any
Mhm.
boulder, anything you want to move. Patricia, you and I can't lift a car. We can't. But if we brought another 10 people each, there's a possibility that the 20 of us could lift the car.
Yeah. 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 The
Probably
more
depends
we
on the
have,
10 we choose.
pardon?
Probably depends on the 10 we choose.
Yeah, you made me think of a Volkswagen Bug when I was in high school, and the kids
Perfect.
lifted that.
Where I went to college, occasionally people would get pretty excited about a sports thing and cars would be flipped. And like, how
Oh,
is that possible? And who thinks that's a good idea? But
no.
my point was, together we can carry heavier burdens.
Mhm.
And even with cancer, where the burden, I mean, it's me, it's my body, but it does impact my family and my friends.
Mhm.
But together we carry it and it is a bit lighter.
Mhm. Tell me about you have this great terminology, and one of them is happiness tripwires.
Love them.
So tell us about what tripwires are, how
Yep.
you identified them, and which ones helped you out the most.
You bet. So tripwires, outside of my language, tripwires are usually used in battle or in hunting or whatever. They're a thin wire you
Yeah.
can't see
Hmm.
that when you cross, something happens,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes you fall or you trigger something. So my tripwires are good tripwires, right? You think of them as like lasers and you pass through, and I don't know, unicorns and butterflies, whatever makes you happy. But the idea of a happiness tripwire is it is a inevitable encounter or situation that gives you a moment of happiness. This is not about be positive or be happy. That's big. This is, let's have a moment. So I'll give you some examples. I had to have chemotherapy every week. That's a lot of driving back and forth. And because of the medications they gave me, they didn't want me driving home.
Hmm.
Okay. So I needed people to drive me. Now, I could have asked my husband to do it every week, and he would have. But instead, I said, let me introduce a happiness possibility. Let me create a list of friends, and if any of them are open to driving one way, I get a 20-minute visit with a friend, and my husband gets to do his work.
Hmm.
And my husband or my sister are the backstop. If nobody steps up, they will. It filled end to end, and it was different people. And I got to have these wonderful visits. And sometimes they stayed. And even when I napped, they brought me lunch and they hung out, or they left and they went about their day. But that brief respite where we just hung out for 20 minutes was such a booster. I'll give you another one that anyone can do. My son, the baseball player, left to go back to school right as I was starting treatment. And he couldn't come home because they're in season. And he said, I feel like I can't do anything. I said, okay. Every week, I want you to write me a letter. And I want that letter on the day I have chemo. So he did. And I got 12 letters. And each one was like digital chocolate. I just unwrapped it and devoured it. And it was a happiness tripwire. And maybe it lasted for just when I was reading the letter. Maybe it lasted all day. Don't know. But when you're doing stuff at work that's hard and you know someone's under pressure, that's a wonderful time to send a text saying, hey, I got you. You're doing great. If you need anything, pop me back. Hey, I'm going out for coffee. You want me to pick you up one? Yeah. Or I'm going to the lunchroom if you have coffee in the lunchroom, whatever. These are little things where you're saying, I see you, I think of you, and I give you just a moment of happiness. And each of those moments recharges our battery.
Even leaders can do that. Leaders that pass their, the offices of their employees who are working on a hard project. What it would take for a leader to say, would you like a coffee? Would you like me to bring you some? It's so small. It doesn't have to be a big pizza lunch or anything like that. It's something small, like you said.
That's right.
That leader sees me, and yeah, that's so important. Yeah.
And it's so easy if we open our eyes. Like the biggest thing that happens, and cancer forces you to do this, and it's a shame because we should do it all the time, which is just savor the moment of happiness for a moment. Just pause. Be like, oh, I feel happy. I'm smiling. That feels good. Okay, back to work.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go so fast and blow by it.
Yeah, so this is truly perspective shifting to hear that you turned an opportunity into a period of time where you focused on growth, whatever it was, coming up with these new ways of labeling things that were positive, about these, these tripwires that are positive rather than negative. Because yes, there are a lot of negative tripwires, that's for sure. Yeah. And that's a great segue into this part of the show that I call Every Moment Matters. Can you share a pivotal point when you knew what you needed to do to crush that curveball?
So I had met with the oncologist and the surgeon, with my husband and my sister-in-law. It was a whole group of us. And they laid out the recommended plan, and they agreed that I could get a port and they would help me schedule it. And I came home and I was alone for a moment, right? Processing what was happening. And I sat down at my computer and I said, you know what's going to help? I need to see this in its entirety. And so I went on to Google. I made a calendar. And I knew the calendar was wrong because I knew things were going to change. But I put in what I thought I had heard, and this was how long this was going to be, and this was how long the next was going to, and this was the break to get strong before surgery, and this was the surgery, and this was the recovery. And I looked at it and I said, apparently in the worst case scenario, other than the immunotherapy, which is a year, this is all going to be done before my birthday.
Oh,
wow. I wonder what celebrations I can put on my calendar along the way to work towards my birthday. And it was an unlock where it was the anxiety of this, how long is this going to go on? How disruptive is this going to be? Became, I know how long it could go on. And by the way, Patricia, I was wrong, and it was shorter.
Shorter.
Good. I was wrong. And I did have tripwires that were mini milestones. I celebrated when I got 6 chemos. Why? Because on that protocol, that was the halfway point. Shouldn't we celebrate getting to halfway? I celebrated the end of that. I celebrated not needing the worst chemo. I celebrated the day before my surgery.
Yeah.
I danced in the office with my nurse practitioner when she took out the last drain.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? There are
Mm-hmm.
many celebrations. We forget this at work,
Yes.
right? We're doing something hard, and we're like, all right, we'll celebrate when it's done. But we need to celebrate
Yeah.
along the way. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be big. Again, hey guys, let's go out to lunch. We just did a major milestone. Fabulous.
I think the smaller celebrations mean more and are more motivating than, say, the boat trip at the end of the whole thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you just made me think of some of the projects that I worked on over the years. And there's always a big celebration at the end, but where we really needed some celebration to say, we've got this far, now we've got this far, we're getting closer. That would have been more motivating to all of us if we had done it that way, rather than just slugging away till we, excuse the slugger.
No, but it is that.
Like
You're
it
in
is, isn't
the,
it? You're just slugging at it. Yeah. So thank you very much, Joelle. I've got a few key takeaways, and I just want to share that I didn't really look at it this way, but I'd say one of the things in my treatment was I got to have a tattoo. And I'm not all for tattoos, but I could brag that I've got a couple tattoos, right? That's for radiation, right?
right.
During radiation, they asked me my first day, so how was it? And I said, I don't like this. I got to be my petulant 2-year-old, and I said, I don't like this. And they said, oh, most people are okay after the first one. What can we do to help you? So they talked about music. I was able to take my own kind of music and play it during then. So those were little wins, little ways that I got my way, right? Because of being that little petulant 2-year-old about the whole thing. But I just wanted to add that in because now it's funny. At that time, it wasn't so funny, but at least I did get some things my way.
Absolutely. And why not? If music brings you joy, if
Yeah.
music makes you smile, then yes, bring in your music.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did a workshop earlier today with a group of executive women, and sometimes it's just looking at your dog or
Yeah.
a belly laugh, like just a real hearty laugh and appreciating, that felt good. It's the moment of appreciation, Patricia, that I want to encourage everyone. I guarantee something has happened in the last 24 hours that made you smile. Whatever it was.
I'm so glad you said that because I was just going to say, here's your takeaway. There's lots of takeaways today, but here's something that I'd like listeners to do. Take one intentional step today, okay, to find beauty and joy in the difficult situation you might have, okay? Start small. Maybe it's an act of gratitude, okay? Just like you said, perhaps it's a call to someone that you know, just to let them know that you love them, right? Those moments add up. And so I think that's great what we've talked about so far. So I want to thank you and the audience. Is there anything else before we move on?
I just want to encourage people, 1 out of every 2 Americans, 1 out of every 4 people in the world are going to face cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand your reactions. I don't want to think about it. I get that. I promise it's going to show up. And when you see curveballs, having practiced hitting curveballs makes you a lot more confident.
It's a good point.
So whether it's my book or, which is not a downer, I promise this book will make you laugh. Whether it's my book, whether it's being open and talking with people, practice makes you confident. Practice makes you capable of hitting whatever curveball. And curveballs, they're interesting and you can crush them.
Yep. That's great. So Joelle's book is a must read for anyone navigating life's challenges, not just cancer, but other challenges as well. It's packed with personal stories and actionable strategies for finding joy when you're in a time of adversity. You can grab it today on Kindle. Actually, the link is in the streamer below, and I'll also have it in the show notes. Along with that, Joelle has a companion workbook that you probably want to take a look into regarding financial impact. It's got a calculator in there, and it'll guide you through your curveballs. So I encourage you to do that as well. Remember that life throws us curveballs, all of us, okay? And the more we can practice, the better we'll get at it. The question isn't how to avoid them, it's how will you crush them? So until next time, keep joy as the expectation, not as something that you have to worry about. Thank you, Joelle, and to our listeners. Don't forget to subscribe, please. Leave us a review on this episode so that other women can find this particular show and this particular episode. Visit my website at patriciamuir.com and read my weekly blog. Joelle will be featured in this week's blog, which comes out at the end of the week, and also in the Sunday Encore newsletter. So I would encourage you all to find a way to sign up for that newsletter. You can go onto my website, and all the links to access all the information will be in the show notes for Joelle and myself. So until next week, take care of yourself, do what's best for you, and don't jeopardize what you've built for yourself.
Love it.
Love it. Bye-bye.